show people this video.
So are you saying that he has the same partner? He? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Are you kidding? Yeah, he's married to him, yeah. We need to find out that well, then I don't want anybody like that in the White House. So can I have my card back? I don't know. He signed it. We could go ask. I never knew that. Well, so the whole point of it is, though, he's a human being, right?
Like, I am not memeing here. I am not memeing. I am not memeing. It's mean and it's below the belt, but I sincerely think that there should be more attention given in debates and in Democratic messaging on the fact that Trump would be the first single president. I think people should play that out more. I think voters care about shit like that. I think it's worth mentioning. Unless he gets married before the races. When they get divorced? They're not divorced yet, but I think they're pretty clearly separated. Apparently Pacman made a video on it, but like she wasn't even with him at the debate, and now people are like finding them like apart from each other a ton. Oh, and she wasn't at some of his court stuff
Where
either.
is Melania Trump? Dozens of you have emailed me, and you've said, David, the story isn't so much that Melania is missing, it's that no one's talking about the fact that Melania is missing. And I would even add to that, we have a candidate that...
James Buchanan was never married and became president. Nobody knows who James Buchanan is. I don't know who James Buchanan is. Nobody cares, okay? Doesn't even sound like a real president. Doesn't sound like a founding father. Doesn't sound like somebody that did anything important. Nobody gives a fuck, okay? Who the fuck is that? Who cares?
Is running on stated values that align with so-called pro-family conservatives. And aside from the affairs and the cheating, all these different things, the porn star hush money and all of it, what about the fact that he's just by himself and doesn't appear to actually be in a real relationship with his wife anymore? They don't care because they are only stated values. They aren't real values or sincerely held when they are inconvenient. So let's talk about a couple parts of this. Yes, Melania Trump is nowhere to be found. Interesting article from the Sydney Morning Herald with Melania missing her role in the post-conviction.
They found her. Jesus Christ.
Trump campaign is more uncertain. And Farrah Thomason asks, how much is she willing to put up for a man who betrayed and humiliated her? And now that Trump is officially a felon, will she appear by his side as he campaigns? Well, the answer seems pretty clear. No. Melania Trump has not been appearing by Trump's side this entire campaign. And the details are not totally public. And to be honest, I don't really care what's going on with their relationship. You know, they sleep in separate rooms. They don't talk to each other. I don't really care about it except for as it relates to the supposed principles that having a...
I'm surprised it doesn't got that meme. This guy is like triggered more of the world. Even I know this guy's a legend. This guy is like, looks kind of fucking nerdy. I don't actually even know what he does or why he's famous, but apparently he just gets the baddest bitches and he takes them from like like not even like beyond S tier men. He like just captures these women and nobody knows how. Nobody knows what the fuck is going on. My God. He is crazy. Somebody comes up to you and tells you this guy will date the most beautiful women in the world and he will steal them from the wealthiest men in history. He dated Carly, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Aquilino, don't know who that is. Cassie David, don't know who that is. Ariana Grande, he dumped her, by the way. Kate Beckinsale. Margaret Qualley. Oh, I feel like she's in movies and stuff, right? Is she an actress? I feel like I've seen her before. Kaya Gerber. Don't know who the fuck that is. Larry David's daughter. Is that really? Olivia O'Brien. Phoebe Denevor. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay. Kim Kardashian. I've heard that name before, by the way. Taken from Kanye. Emily Ratajkowski. Chase Sweet Wonders. Don't know who that is. Madeline Klein. God damn. Anyway.
Wife by your side represent when you were running as a Republican. And it's not new. If we go back to 2016, the event...
Rate his fits in those pictures. Oh, yeah, true. This is a fashion stream now. Is this a NASA just a sticker that's just thrown on? He gets a 10 in every picture. My God. An actual fashion icon. Yes.
Evangelicals initially saw Trump for what he was, which is, you know, a serial philanderer, pro-choice, pro-gay rights Democrat, quite frankly. Initially, that Ted Cruz contingent, and Ted Cruz saw Trump for what he was. But Trump lied to them about everything. He said, you know, when I was 68, I became against abortion, and I just don't know about this LGBT stuff necessarily. And all the stuff you hear about me with cheating and all this stuff, it's all lies and fake news and whatever. And they accepted it. They either accepted it because they believed it, or they accepted it because they had no choice, because Ted Cruz clearly wasn't going to win. Marco Rubio clearly wasn't going to be the nominee. So they just accepted the entire thing. And of course, since then, we found out that in absolutely every way...
Wait.
My wife is out here f***ing a white boy with a 10-inch penis, and you won't help me? My wife is out here f***ing a white boy with a 10-inch penis, and you telling me that's your friend, but you're supposed to be culture?
Were these from leaked text messages that this came from? This whole dude, yikes. Also, I'm glad Candace Owens is making the full switch to whatever the fuck you would call what she's doing now.
Has become, in many ways, science has become a faith. It's interesting because you have so many people that consider themselves to be atheists, and they say, well, I'm an atheist because I'm rational. And I'm rational because I'm able to look at this, I'm able to study this, and I'm able to discern.
Just as a heads up, science has nothing to do with atheism. These two things are wholly and completely unrelated. I don't know why you even use them. I'm implying ontologically. I can't imagine how broad your categories of things have to be for atheism and science to be overlapping, but okay.
That this, therefore, is true. And the more that I think about that, I'm starting to recognize that in many ways, science has contributed to what I am terming a Christ conspiracy. It is the ability to convince people that faith is stupid. Oh my God, how could you believe in God? But science is definitely real. Yeah, those people don't recognize that science is now their religion. And that religion comes with sacraments. Just think back to COVID. People were lecturing us, the same thing, positions of authority, the doctors, the experts, the historians. This is how it's going to mutate if you don't do this. People were then walking around on 6-foot distancing pads. People were not seeing their family members because they were trusting the science and the experts and the people in the media that were creating another mass psychosis, creating a mass psychosis that made people believe that they should just line up and that they should get vaccines. And when you think about...
What does any of that even have to do with science? The funny thing is there's actually a word that she could use if she wasn't just a grifting, like, clueless fuck. There is actually a word you could use. Does anybody know it, actually, if she wanted to be critical of this? Oh, yeah, oh, good job. Look at my fucking retard philosophy nerd chat. When people do elevate science and they try to make it answer questions that it's not really equipped to answer, if she was smart, maybe she does bring it up in this video. There's a concept in philosophy called scientism, which is basically taking science, which in its Okay, hold on. I feel like if one were to describe what science is like it's like an analytical process to discover the world, share your discoveries with other people, and then kind of like validate or verify those discoveries, like in the broadest of senses, maybe. But scientism is when you start saying like, oh, well, actually, I applied the scientific process to God, and actually I found out that God doesn't exist because it's blah, 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 blah. And it's like when people can actually get into this weird mindfuck world, like, oh, well, actually, scientifically, if we measure the human brain, morality is objectively true because it's scientific. And it's like, okay. If you really wanted to be critical of people that were abusing science or like expanding it past things that science could really deal with, then maybe you could use this term. Somebody said the tweet mentioned scientism. The Dark Ages were enlightened. The Enlightenment was a dark age. Candace Owens breaks down Western civilization's gradual shift towards scientism. Oh, he does use this here. And breaks down Western civilization's gradual... Oh, wait. And the way secular reasoning is wielded to police historical and political narratives.
About that, and you start studying history in the way that I had been studying history, you realize that lies like this...
You ever notice that when people say they like study history, they don't ever really speak about it? Have I... Benny Moore, well, no, fuck. I can only name people that agree with me. Yeah, I don't know. Especially now that I do. Whenever I said this before I didn't know anything about history, because the limited reading that I would do would show me that, oh, everything you're saying is wrong. Basically, every single time somebody says study history or learn history or look at history, they don't know any of it. They never do. My God, I can't think of a single lefty that's ever told me that. I don't think conservatives even pretend to be historically rooted anymore. Like, I understand saying, history. Like, okay, which history? What book? What author do you recommend? Where do I start? Like, they're just like, start with the Bible. That's probably what she would say.
Studying history in the way that I had been studying history, you realize that lies like this have been told.
Like, give some examples. Like, you could ground it out in examples so well, and it would push what you're saying so much better. It would support your argument so much better if you could just like, oh, like in this and that and that and that.
It's as far back as I can look in American history.
Yeah, what Defty just said, if you actually know history, you would just work the examples into the conversation. If you pretend to know history, you say things like, if you studied history, yeah. I wish I could make people understand this more. Credentials should demonstrate themselves. They should be self-evident. Like, I've never in my life seen an intelligent person weaponize their credentials, because the credentials are a byproduct of their knowledge, and they'll just know the things, right? Like, if I would have an argument with a historian, they're not going to just say like, oh, well, I've written books on this, I'm a historian. They're going to say like, oh, well, what about X, Y, Z, A, B, C, blah, 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 blah. They're like, oh, shit, fuck me. Yeah, okay.
And before American history, of course, America's a very young country. In fact, when you study, you will learn that the Dark Ages, the notorious Dark Ages that they tell you about, those weren't dark at all. They were just Christian.
What?
They were ages of great Christian discovery. You can learn about that by reading an author named Rodney Stark.
Oh, she does recommend one author. Thank you. Share a couple things that you learned from him.
And then you learn about the Enlightenment. Well, let me tell you something.
Oh, no. That's another thing. When somebody... There's stage 2 of this pervertry, okay? You tell people to read history, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine, whatever. Don't bring anything up. You don't give any examples. What about, like, can you tell us what to read? And they'll be like, okay, well, actually, you should read this guy. Okay, why? So give me something from him. What did you learn from him, right? Give an idea. Give something. Incorporate what you've learned into your presentation.
It was not enlightened at all. It birthed the ideas that led to virtually every ill that we are combating today in society. Marxism, communism, humanism, the philosophies that have led to death and destruction everywhere. And that all came because people said, hey, don't believe in God, believe in mankind. You are individually enlightened. Believe in the books. Trust the textbooks. Trust us when we tell you that this definitely took place millions and billions of years ago. Trust us when we tell you that we made it to the moon. Anyways.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, what?
Because people said, hey, don't believe in God, believe in mankind. You are individually enlightened. Believe in the books. Trust the textbooks. Trust us when we tell you that this definitely took place millions and billions of years ago. Trust us when we tell you that we made it to the moon. Constantly believe and put faith in humans. We are the experts now. You are the experts now. Yeah, that's what I see everywhere. I see that they don't want you to believe in your soul. They want you to believe only in your mind, want you to believe only in rationality. And then, of course, they're curating that rationality. They're conducting experiments to see how they can get you to believe in anything, how they can get you to not even believe your own eyes, not even to trust your own gut, because there's an expert somewhere or there's a historian somewhere that will tell you otherwise. And that's all I'm going to say about that topic.
Why? What's the difference on history and journalism except from time? And since we can't agree about journalism, why is history right? Because there are people that say it's right, just like people say we went to the moon. The positive arguments of the constructive stuff, like I've said this before, is like making me hate people so much more. Okay, what is it about Christians? Because I don't think Jews do this. Jews value education. Okay, like if you are a Christian, okay, and if you have a mind, all right, like God created man separate from the animals to rule over the animals. God gave us the faculty to consider things that an animal never could, okay? He literally gave us domain over the entire fucking planet. If you're Christian, all right, science is one of the ways that humans, okay, created in the image and likeness of God, endowed with an intelligence, not seen anywhere else on the planet, has the ability to explore the things put before us by God in order to better our lives, right? I don't understand how you can be Christian and then look at one of the best faculties that man has been gifted with, if you're a Christian, as a gift from God, and then say like, oh, actually, we need to ignore all of that. It's like just such a retarded view of the world, of your religion, of science. It's like it's the worst combination of everything. One of my favorite arguments, I don't know how popular this is in Jewish communities or not. One of my favorite arguments that I heard from a Jew in Israel, because I brought up, because the Eruv shit and the Shabbat elevator and all of that stuff, all of that was just very, very, very funny to me. And one of the differences I made was, I feel like as Christians, we're constantly looking at, you know, like the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. And it feels like when you Jews are like making up these crazy rules, it feels like you guys are looking at the letter of the law and then seeing how you can get around it, like all the crazy loopholes you guys have. And one of the responses I got from a Jewish person was, excuse me, God is perfect and God created man with rationality. If God writes a rule and it can be bent in a particular way, who are you to assume that God didn't mean it as such? It's not a loophole. It literally is as written. This is the rule. God knows that we can read and he knows that we have logic. So if he writes a thing in a particular way and you can have an elevator that goes up and down without requiring manual input, God didn't want that. He would have written that into the rule. I was like, okay, that's fair. I guess that's fair. Yeah. Okay. That was actually I don't know if I've ever said this. That was the strongest argument that I heard in Israel for why like the weird quote unquote loopholes exist. And why it's not a loophole. God knows you can read. That's just as written. Yeah. I was like, okay. You are a little wrong about the Jewish love for science and education. In New Jersey and New York, Jewish schools have some of the lowest test scores. Fuck, if I start Googling this, I'm going to end up on the Nazi list. If I were to look up like Nobel Prize winners, I'm pretty sure Jews traditionally have a huge value in religion. There might be some Jews around the country that are dumb or that don't value education or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that Jews, like as a culture, have a huge value that they place on education. Did I say education or religion? I might have said religion, education, but
it's hard to find the opposite of their stated Christian values, stated being the key word, than Donald Trump. And now that Melania Trump is completely missing, all of a sudden, remember the concerns about, Tim Scott? He's been a bachelor his whole life, and we think maybe he's even gay. Oh my goodness. And he's really going to be not super viable to Republicans unless he puts a woman by his side. And eventually Tim Scott introduced us to his supposed girlfriend and whatever. But they're completely ignoring the fact that Melania Trump is missing. Now, as far as the behind the scenes, reports are that she's renegotiated a prenup multiple times and that she wants out, but she's agreed for some amount of money to at least stay, quote, with Trump through the campaign. They don't seem to see each other. They don't seem to have any relationship, whatever. So I couldn't care less about Melania being missing. At the end of the day, it's about Trump's policies and Trump's campaign, but it is just yet another reminder about how brazenly and cynically these Republicans will abandon what they claim to hold dear when it's inconvenient. And right now, what would be inconvenient would be saying, hey, you know what? All the stuff we've been saying for 30 years, 50 years, I don't know how long matters to us about a candidate. It doesn't really matter. if the opponent is a Democrat, if the opponent is Hillary Clinton, if the opponent is Barack Obama, if the opponent is Joe Biden. So we certainly...
Do you think how science and faith can stay as one if you see faith more as a personal and science as a more outward view? Quite rare that this isn't seen as such in the sciences. The thing is that religious faith can answer questions that science can never begin to touch. Science can never give you answers about aught. Science can't tell you how we should treat another person. Science can't tell you to live for something greater than yourself. Science can only inform your knowledge about these things, and then you make decisions on them based on your personal, I guess, like your ethical beliefs, right? Your whatever moral system you have, whatever meta-ethical beliefs you have, whatever, however you determine goodness. Science can never inform ethics. It can only give you information to make decisions that, come from ethics. Like, for instance, ethically, we might say that suffering is wrong. And scientifically, we might be able to investigate, well, are people in comas suffering? Oh, okay, so then maybe we should kill them. But the ought comes from the faith. The description comes from the science. If you're Christian and you truly believe in a Christian world that was created by God, well, then God has placed all these things in front of you and before you to explore and investigate. And we have brains to do that. There's the joke, I've told this joke a million times, but I think it's a really good example of how you're supposed to live life as a Christian. And there's a flood. A guy sees a couple driving by in a car and they say, hey, come with us. There's a flood, and the guy says, no, God's going to come save me. The waters begin to rise. He's sitting in the upper floor, his whole basement and bottom floor are flooded. A couple come by in a canoe and they say, hop in, we're going to save you. And he says, no, God's going to protect me. And then, eventually the water's up to his roof and he's standing on the roof. A helicopter comes by, they throw it on a ladder and they're like, hey, get on, we're here to save you. And he says, no, God's going to save me. And then the waters rise, the guy gets swept away, drowns, and he's standing before Peter at the pearly gates, and Peter says he's been faithful his whole life, he's going to let him in, and the guy says before he goes in, he's like, hold on, one question. I placed my faith in God and I was killed for it anyway. What happened? And then Peter says to him, he says, God sent you, he sent you a car, a canoe, and a helicopter, and you ignored all three. What more did you want him to do? And it's like, the idea that God can't, if you are Christian, you believe in God, you believe the fact that can't manifest in some material reality is just strange. That's so stupid. I don't think there has to be an inconsistency in your belief in a higher power that informs your ethics and gives you a broader view of purpose in the world. That doesn't have to conflict with scientific discovery or process, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I saw this picture recently. I don't know where it came from, but Christ bros, it's over. An atheist building a raft, a believer praying in God. Amazing. God answered the believer's prayers by sending him an atheist to build a boat. The Lord works in mysterious ways. This is actually a meme in theist servers. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Suspected that. Melania's absence with absolutely no concern from the MAGA people is just another confirmation. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first two books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.
Wow. Hello. Why is Instagram short? Living for Nebraska. So packing stuff and doing. The simple solution to traffic. 7 years old. Why'd you link this? Wait, hello? Oh, okay. For how long? Just a day. I'll be back on the 12th.
Is people. So the real simple solution to traffic is no more monkeys driving cars.
Amazing. Adam something debunked that video. Oh my god. Wait, really?
Hello everyone, this video is a response to CGP Grey's painful take on traffic. Now, I don't have an issue with CGP Grey or his content in general, but I do believe that his video entitled The Simple Solution to Traffic is wildly misinformed and propagates some very harmful solutions both to people and to our built environment. I've put a link to his video in the description so you can check it out yourself and make sure that I don't misrepresent any of his ideas. So let's get to it, shall we? In the video, CGP Grey begins by laying out the main problem with traffic in his opinion: coordination.
Stuck at an intersection, you always watch unfold the fundamental problem of traffic. On green, the first car accelerates, and then the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then you, only to catch the red. Had the cars accelerated simultaneously, you would have made it through. Coordination, not cars, is the problem, because we are monkey drivers with slow reaction times and short attention spans.
He posits that traffic could be vastly improved if all cars could accelerate and decelerate at the same time, as if they were connected to each other. Oh man, so far this sounds dangerous like a train. CGP Grey then proposes the first practical solution. Just don't tailgate, stay in the middle. That should fix the problem, right? Of course not, and CGP Grey acknowledges this, so props to him.
That's the simple solution to traffic, getting humans to change their behavior, perhaps by sharing this video to show how and why traffic happens, why tailgaters are trouble, and how we can work together to make the roads better for all. The end. Except, yeah, wishing upon a star that people are better than they are is a terrible solution every time.
CGP Grey then posits that we need a structurally systematized solution. Wow, you mean public transportation?
Which is exactly what self-driving cars are.
Oh, and this right here is the main point I'll be arguing against, that self-driving cars are a solution or even the solution to our traffic problems. So within the framework of self-driving cars, CGP Grey proposes that once all cars become self-driving, we can finally get rid of intersections, and so traffic will flow evenly and nobody will have to sit in a traffic jam. Now that being said, my question to you, CGP Grey, is how in the name of Christ will a pedestrian cross this? And this right here is my central issue with this video, really. It looks and sounds like having been made by someone who, if they want to go running, take their SUV from their copy-paste suburban home to the strip mall 10 kilometers away, and then take the...
Okay. How's life going? Okay. I am 100% positive that Candace is lying about her college shit. I don't know why nobody's called her out on this, or maybe nobody's dug into it or nobody cares. It's not the biggest deal in the world. I'm just irritated because she cites this over and over and over and over again. I'll run through this real quick, and then you can tell me if this is crazy or not, or if I'm missing anything. But otherwise, I'm just like, I'm positive that this is bullshit. What exactly is she lying about? Oh, it could be any number of things, but let's check. Okay. Why this matters. Candace Owens constantly brings up her past experience with college and uses it as a springboard to advise others to skip college entirely, oftentimes in favor of trade school or some other nonsense. If she's going to use her personal experience as an authoritative reference to discourage others from college, then two important things must be true about her experience. One, it must be reasonably representative of the average person's experience. And two, it must be true. If her experience was exceptional, then it wouldn't make sense to caution others because of it, as the circumstances regarding her education would be avoidable or non-applicable to the average person. If her experience was a lie, then it's misleading to cite it as a realistic example of what could go wrong. TLDR, Candace Owens presents an irreconcilable pattern of facts pertaining to her family and schooling history. She's either misrepresenting crucial facts about her experience, or she took an unbelievably foolish path through the college system that no one else should reasonably be advised nor expected to follow. Consequently, she or her family should assume responsibility for her mistakes and stop blaming the system for her family with higher education. All right. None of this makes sense, all right? Okay, so fact pattern. So Candace claims that she grew up in Stamford, Connecticut. Median household seems to be around 80 to 90,000 a year at the time, or 74,000 for individuals. About the most important thing. She claims to have grown up in low-income housing in the city, though she doesn't specify for how many years she lived in said housing. I'm quoting here from a New Yorker profile. Owens has said that her early years, many of them spent in low-income housing in Stamford, Connecticut, were dysfunctional. Her family moved in with her grandparents when she was 9, and her grandfather Robert became a powerful influence in Owens' life. Candace claims that she scored well on her state tests. So in a profile piece that she did for the Times, she says, "When I grew up, I never ever felt like this because I had high test scores. I was in classes with primarily white people, with the exception of one black girl and one black boy. We were the only black kids in our class, and I never felt that. In her primary school, she was in a mixed class, and her best friends were a black girl and a Spanish girl. After she took the state test, she found herself in a mostly white class." Candace Owens' family was awarded a $37,500 judgment after her family filed a case against high school students who'd made threats and racist remarks to Candace in high school. Candace chose to attend an out-of-state public school, the University of Rhode Island, to major in journalism. She seems to bounce back and forth between claiming that she had $100,000 in debt or $150,000 in debt, depending on the conversation. She also claims that she dropped out of school after her junior year. Here's 5 different tweets or podcast appearances or things where she references her debt, where she says 100K in a 2018 tweet here, 150K in a PragerU podcast here, 150K in a tweet here, 150K on a podcast here. And then to me, she said 100K, although later I think she tweeted 112K. The actual tuition for the University of Rhode Island in 2007 for out-of-state tuition was $21,294 if she paid for full room and board with the meal ticket as well. That's an additional $8,732, bringing the total to about $30,000. On my stream, Candace claims that she got $8,000 in Pell Grants after stumbling through, originally claiming that she didn't have any help filling out the FAFSA. She doesn't clarify whether this was per year, impossible, as the maximum awarded Pell Grant for the years she was in school was around $5,000, or total, unlikely. If her family was so poor that she was living in low-income housing in roach-infested apartments, I imagine she would have qualified for the maximum award for those 3 years, which comes out to about $16,500. This means that the total cost of her education, with incredibly generous assumptions, would have come out to about $75,000. This assumes that she was taking out a loan all 3 years for room, board, and food, though I've only heard her refer to it as tuition and never room and board in her interviews and tweets. This assumes that she wasn't working at all during her college years, which is contradicted by her claiming that she was working since she was 14 in her PragerU video. And this assumes that she never qualified for any additional student aid or scholarships, despite being a black woman graduating high school in low-income housing with high test scores, and despite filling out the FAFSA and receiving a Pell Grant. Candace claims that she took out loans from Sallie Mae at criminal interest rates and approximates the cost of her education at $37,500 per year, though it's unclear where she gets this number from, as it exceeds even the maximum out-of-state tuition and room and board with meal plan costs for education, implying that she was forced to take private loans instead of subsidized ones. She also claims that it took her many years to pay back her debt, though paying back over $100,000 in student loan debt in 4.5 years is quite exceptional. A March 2024 tweet, she says, "This is legitimately hilarious." Oh, this is her tweet to me. "My university was about $37,500 a year. 3 years would total approximately $112K. I took out student loans with Sallie Mae, which had criminal interest rates. I then defaulted on those loans because I was, still broke. It took me many years to climb out of debt, but I wound up paying back everything I owed, which was over $100K, as I told you. You know, you have completely lost a debate when you've been reduced to trying to accuse someone of being secretly wealthy in their youth." Candace also claims that after quitting school early due to loan issues, she moved to New York City, began working, and paid off her $150,000 or $100,000 of student loan debt in 4.5 years while working as an assistant without a college degree and traveling at the same time. And then, quote from another profile piece she did, "So I went to the city of New York with $8 in my bank account. There, she did a quick stint at Vogue before I realized I was way too cerebral to work in fashion. These girls would be stressed out, like in tears in the closet because they can't find a Prada bag. So she set her sights on finance. I knew that if I could interview and get in front of somebody, I could get a job making money, and I wanted to make as much money as possible. She got a job as an assistant and rose quickly and traveled a lot," she says. Though she won't tell me at which firm, because if she does, reporters will start seeking dirt from her former colleagues. After 4.5 years, with her loans paid off, she set out on her own, starting a lifestyle website called Degree 180, and then a project called Social Autopsy, which was meant to expose internet trolls. This comes from an interview with Candace Owens, the same profile piece from The Times. This is a rather exceptional fact pattern that doesn't map on at all to the average college experience in the United States. The average college graduate who borrowed money to graduate will finish college and attain their bachelor's with $27,400 in debt. Candace Owens claims to have accumulated $100,000 to $150,000 in debt in only 3 years at a public university. It takes the average borrower about 20 years to pay off their student loan debt. Candace Owens did it while traveling, moving to one of the most expensive cities in the world, dropping out of college without attaining her degree, and in a blazing 4.5 years. Candace simultaneously claims that her family was incredibly poor, yet she apparently wasn't able to qualify for substantial financial aid or grants. She also claims that her family was incredibly poor, yet she was able to qualify for an absurd amount of private, unsubsidized loans from Sallie Mae to the tune of over $100,000. Candace Owens is either completely misrepresenting her college journey or her experience was so exceptional it can't be used as a warning for potential future college students. Am I missing something here? There's no shot. This is not a possible story. This is just not a possible story. You should write articles like this in the research or stream content. I can't research this shit on stream. You guys are way too fucking retarded. I'll never do any of this on stream again. It was way easier to do this last night. Where are you going? Distant worlds. What could she post to prove all this to you? Loan bank statements or other documents? I don't know what words I have to say to communicate. I don't know what I can say to you. The point is twofold. It's either she's lying or the experience is so atypical that it doesn't apply. I don't know how else to communicate both halves of that to you. Or maybe it's impossible. Maybe that's not a possible thing to communicate to you. I don't know what I have to say to make the second part make sense. There is a world where her story could be true. She took an unfathomable amount of private loans, but it's because she had wealthy family members to co-sign for her. And she was able to pay back in 4.5 years despite dropping out of college because she had a wealthy family member to help her out. That's the other half. I don't know how to communicate that to you, Huff Daddy. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I'm not sure. It's a twofold thing. Either she's lying or the story is so exceptional that why would you ever use it as a point to warn other people against college? Yeah, I don't understand. Yeah, but I don't know how to make you understand that. I'm sorry. You want to be a journalist? No. I want to be a streamer. And fuck your mom. Yeah, she also claims she defaulted on her loans. Her gramps owned land and had a business. Her gramps owned 4 businesses. I found his obituary page, but I don't know how relevant that is to bring that up. Robert's life, I think this is her grandfather. Robert's life was filled with amazing accomplishments for someone who didn't finish secular school, from working as a sharecropper at the age of 5 to establishing and owning several businesses. Newfield Clean Dry Cleaners, Owens Maintenance Service, and O's Cleaning Service in Stamford, Connecticut. Does this really matter? This is just bad optics to focus on this that much. What does it matter if somebody is blatantly lying about their background and then using it over and over again as an authoritative reference on why to tell a whole generation of people not to go to college? I think it does matter. Yes. need to clean up some of the punctuation. And then I don't know what else we're doing now. I'm streaming for like 2 or 3 hours today. I gotta pack my shit and get the fuck out. At Destiny, what was her job post-college dropout? If it made like $5K a month average, she could have made it work. You think somebody making $5,000 a month could pay back over $100,000 in student loan debts in 4.5 years? Tell me you came from a rich fucking family with no fucking idea what you're talking about. Please, what the fuck? Bro, I want your parents that you think that that math works. Like, I know why you think that math works, because you just did it in your head. You're like, well, if you make $5,000, that's $60,000 a year. I don't know what taxes are. I don't know what living expenses are. I don't know what rent or car is. So if you're making $60,000 a year, you could probably pay like probably $40,000 a year to your student loan. Yeah, I think if you're making $60,000 a year, you could put $40,000 a year towards your student loan. So in like 4 years, yeah, that's easily. Yeah, you could easily do that in 4 years, I think. For sure. Living in New York City? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. If she worked in private equity like she said she had before, you make 150K plus in New York City. What are you talking about? Worked in private equity? She said she had a job as an assistant, dog. That's like saying I manage financial transactions for an S&P 500 company or whatever, and I work at the cash register at McDonald's. What are you talking about? You think they hired a college dropout to work a hedge fund, to do private equity investment, to do portfolio management? What the fuck are you talking about? Stop. Fuck. I need to get like a chat filter. I can't read these messages. Kill me. My God. I don't believe her either, but she said she worked in private equity. Yeah, I couldn't find that anywhere. I saw that she worked as an assistant for a company. She was a VP. She became the vice president of an equity firm after being a college dropout. Yes, look it up. Show me. Link me. It's on her wiki, dog. That she immediately got hired as a vice president to a private equity firm? She started off as an assistant for a private equity firm and then later moving up to become vice president of administration. This doesn't mean that she was the VP of a massive multi-billion-dollar company. She, like a C-level exec on a massive multi-level fucking, like, no. And even if that was the case, which is not, she started off as an administrative assistant. Check the source. Vice President of Administration. Sounds like that there's a branch of the office that like manages secretaries, and she was the vice president of like the secretaries. That's what this is. This is not like a C-level exec, like a COO position in like a multi-billion-dollar company. or it's not like third in line for like control of the like management of the entire company. You guys are acting like she was like a fucking. Okay, don't care. When are we getting Annalicia back on? When your mom lets her come back on after I come in her. Boom, got him. Bro, this Substack website is fucking horrible. Holy shit, to navigate? Oh, Jesus. Isn't that a fluffed up title for office manager? That's basically what it sounds like, yes. Even after graduating from high school in the University of Rhode Island, where she tried to hide using her mother's maiden name. Wait, this does imply that she graduated from Rhode Island. You can't look up if somebody got a degree from somewhere, right? Is that considered protected information? I doubt she would lie about not having a degree. That sounds insane. Your article's not showing up. Yeah, I need to... I'll clean up punctually later. Fuck it, publish it. I don't give a fuck. This post is for everyone. Do I allow comments? Did I allow comments in my last post? Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Do you want to add subscribe buttons to your post? What is I don't give a fuck. She's going to address not about. I don't give a fuck. I just want it to be. I want it to be known that her story is bullshit. I hate poverty. It's not poverty tourism. Poverty aesthetics. It drives me fucking crazy. Okay, we're done with this. A stolen valor. Yes. True. God, my mom just emails me the cringiest shit. Did you know the 14th of June, 1946 is the birthday of a boy born in the Jamaica district of Queens, New York City? In 1995, his car had a flat tire. A black man walking by notices its owner is wearing a suit, so he fixes the flat. How can I repay you? Asks our birthday boy. My wife has always wanted some flowers. A few days later, the black man's wife gets a beautiful bouquet of flowers with a note saying, thanks for helping me. By the way, the mortgage on your house is paid off. A United States Marine Corps sergeant spends 7 months in a Mexican prison for a minor charge. He's beaten. The man from Queens sends him a check for $25,000 to get you started. A black bus driver saves a suicidal girl from jumping off a bridge. Our Queens man sends him a check for $10,000. A rabbi's critically ill son needs to get from New York City to California for specialty care. No airlines will fly him. The generous man pays for a private flight for the child. This kind man from Queens commits many other quiet acts of random kindness. A wise man once said, if a man's heart is good, nothing else matters. And if a man's heart is bad, nothing else matters. Who is this kind man? Hashtag Donald J. Trump, a man with a good heart. Let's go. American flag emoji, American flag emoji, American flag emoji, 2024. I'm on like episode like 25 or 30 of Hunter x Hunter. When does the dude with the black hair get to do anything? I feel like he's worthless, okay? Does this guy ever level up or anything? Supposedly he's a doctor, but I just see him carry around a briefcase with some ibuprofen. Does he actually do anything? Liario? He has one cool scene in the last arc. He doesn't do anything besides Mew. Literally 300 episodes in. I thought it was only like 150 episode anime. They're trying to get the gray-haired, edgy emo kids saved from his house or some shit. It feels like a this whole zone is like if you're playing an RPG and you wander into an area that you're dramatically underleveled for, because I guess everything will kill them, but... Are you watching the 98 or the recent one? I think the recent one. Wait, what the fuck? Hello? Sorry, hold on. What do you think of it so far? It's okay. It's definitely a lot more lighthearted than like the normal anime that I've been watching, so. Can I ditch this? Do you ever read manga? No, I hate comics. What do you think about the world building so far? I mean, it's interesting. It's really hard to like I don't know what the time period is supposed to be. Because in some ways it looks like it's like a, not medieval, but like villagers and shit. And then people have like laptops and cell phones. I have no idea. What is like a generic, I need like a generic thing I can encourage or have like something positive rather than being destructive and like as opposed to constructive in my arguments. I don't know what to, I feel like everybody that I talk to or everybody that debates me that has these like prescriptions for everybody's life, I feel like it's all snake oil and bullshit. So I don't like the idea of having these like broad prescriptions and like the broad liberal thing of like, oh, you should be allowed to explore. It seems like unsatisfying in response to somebody who's like a religious fanatic or the red pillar or... Video of Ben Thorpe being arrested for hitting Grace on stream. Why don't you adopt what Chris Williamson says to do? Well, I don't know if Chris Williamson like debates fanatics to present. Like I can give like broad advice in the context of like 30 or 60
told
minutes.
You guys it was a fucking joke.
But I can't do that in the course of like a super quick debate where it's like live life like God tells you or something like that. I don't like any of this. I don't believe it. I don't want to give any publicity to this. Grace and all of them, they all deserve themselves. I'm good on that. Watch this. Why did you switch to Vyvanse? This 10 milligram Adderall hasn't done shit to my impulsivity or desire to study more. 10 milligrams for Adderall is the starting dose. So if it's not helping, then you titrate up. Well, you're balancing side effects, negative side effects, and therapeutic effect. Vyvanse and Adderall should be pretty similar to each other. Vyvanse and Adderall XR, there shouldn't be a significant difference between those two things. So if Adderall is doing absolutely nothing for you, I would be surprised if Vyvanse is like a godsend. I think there's just going to be slightly different side effects. Vyvanse is going to have a bit of a smoother curve in terms of concentration in blood versus Adderall XR, but it shouldn't be a significant. It shouldn't be a significant difference. Most people on 40 to 50 milligrams of Adderall XR. That sounds like a really high dose. Average prescription dose Adderall XR. If I had to guess, the average prescription has got to be around 15 to 20. Adderall XR starts at 20? Oh, damn, never mind. I thought they started you at 10 or 15. The average dosage for adults is usually 20 to 30. Divided into 2 to 3 doses. Oh yeah, here's it starting as 10. Aren't there like actual prescription guidelines that are published by the company itself that you should be able to find? That said IR. It shouldn't matter if it's IR, XR. That'll just matter the release, but... What is your opinion of the idea that ADHD should be treated as a spectrum disorder similar to ASD and not threshold based? Could some people benefit from a very mild dose of stimulants? I mean, it kind of already works that way, right? You have ADHD in varying severities. Let me toss this and I gotta brush my teeth. If the father wants to abort but not the mother, if the mom then chooses to keep it, should the father be forced to stay, and or is it immoral for the father to leave? I think in a perfect world, I think the father should have a right to make a decision. In terms of financial obligation, the state just rules in the interest of the child. So that's usually what the state is considering. In a perfect world, there'd be a state to, I guess, apportion out something more fair, but I don't know. It'd be interesting. I've never like wrestled much with those like responsibility hypotheticals. Abortion is an interesting responsibility hypothetical because it's I guess in some ways it's kind of comparable to Israel-Palestine, maybe. Like you have an interesting mechanism where you've got a decision here that requires input from two people. You've got an input here that requires a decision from two people. If either person pulls out, then the question is, like, well, who's responsible? Well, both people should be responsible, right? I think that's fair. That's easy and fair. So in the point when you're having sex, both people are fully engaged in sex, both people are responsible for the sex, and then if a baby is conceived, then, you both are responsible. That's pretty easy. But then there's like an interesting escape where you've got a moment where you can escape the responsibility, but only one person has the ability to make that decision. And I'm thinking, like, is it fair to, because men will complain, well, hold on, we don't get to make a decision at this point. But then obviously the counterexample is, well, both people made a decision at this point. So if one person has the ability to exit, are both people still responsible, right? And a lot of people like to argue, well, both parties are responsible here, so this part is irrelevant. I'm sorry, when I was thinking of Israel-Palestine, I'm thinking of like, on this part here, you've got, really it's just one party, but we'll say like Hamas and Israel are fighting with each other. And then here at this point, you've got Hamas is the party that won't release the hostages, but Hamas wants to go back and say, fine, maybe I won't release the hostages, but also like you're attacking me here. Like Hamas is the only one with the escape here, but they still want more responsibility to be laid on Israel here for not ending the conflict, even though technically they have the right. Kind of there's got to be like a name for this like pattern of conflict, or this pattern of decision making, resolution. I'm not sure what you would call this, but where only one party has an escape afterwards. This other party that was involved in this mutual decision here also wants to share in this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But both are aware of who can make decisions, who can make what decisions at what time, so the guy buys into it. Possibly a little bit, yeah. Did something change for you to acknowledge this? I felt like you said this was all stupid during abortion debate. Said that what was stupid? What are your thoughts on the phrase, my body, my choice? It's stupid. I mean, it's up to you if you trust or not. I'm taking 90% of the risk. Wait, are you a guy or a girl? Because if you're a guy and you're saying you're taking 90% of the risk, that is absolutely not true. People argue that currently there is a genocide happening. What is the likelihood that this ends up happening by the end of the war? I think there's almost no chance of a genocide happening. Like truly, factually. Will the UN find that there is a genocide happening? I don't know. At this point, I'm not sure. Not gonna stop asking you publicly to buy me Unicorn Overlord, bro. Not until you play it or get it for me. I love you, Fussel. Oh. Gotcha. Okay. I think there's a fair chance of a large population transfer because where they're all going to live if all the buildings are destroyed. I mean, they've got tons of money. They've seemed to rebuild them all before. So it's possible to rebuild everything. It's even trivial with the amount of money that flows in there. The problem is that Israel's not that invested in the region, and Hamas has no investment in anything but wanting to fight. Hamas as an administrator to that region is really, 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 really bad. It's really bad. Yeah, it's a really bad regional administrator. Even if we ignore the terrorisms and everything, they just don't do good at taking care of the region either, given how much money flows into that place. Why don't you like comics? I don't know. I could just never get into them at all.
Iran, women will get arrested, killed, attacked, beat just for showing their hair. To me, that is oppression.
That's not scientific evidence of oppression. The scientific evidence,
that's factual evidence.
It's
That's
factual.
You don't need to do any scientific study to know that if you go to the Middle East, you may not even live a day just dressed how you are right now. In America, you can walk to a bar alone at night, get drunk, and get home safe. Yes, that's not the safest thing to do, but even the fact that you have the capability of doing that shows that women are free and not oppressed. And you can be a full-time worker your entire life, work a 9 to 5. You're going to college, you're studying. There's some countries that still women don't even have those rights fully where they can get an education and work.
Okay, just as a heads up, I would be very, 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 very careful. Basically, if you generalize any whole region, you're almost always going to miss a ton of things. Trying to generalize like the entire Middle East as being dangerous for women is kind of silly. There are going to be parts that have different rights for women, for sure. There are going to be parts that are more dangerous for women, for sure. But like even within countries, like I'm pretty sure that if you go to like Cairo as a woman and you see the pyramids, as long as you stay in the super public areas, you're generally okay. If you wander outside those areas, I've heard it can be kind of dangerous. But like women are going to be treated a lot different there than if you wander around in random places in fucking Yemen versus going to like Saudi Arabia or Dubai or the difference between going to like Israel and Tel Aviv versus like versus going to like fucking like rural areas in Afghanistan or Pakistan. Like it's going to be way, 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 way different from place to place. Bystander watches girl get kidnapped right in front of her and does nothing. I just feel like young Americans care more about Palestinians than Ukrainians. I think it's that. I think it's who the West supports, who America supports, and that oppressor-oppressee dynamic. That's not the point. The point is that she is free here in the U.S. and not oppressed like she says she is. Yeah, sure. I mean, like that's true. If somebody's saying like I'm more oppressed here in America than in the Middle East, that's retarded. I agree with that. But it's also dumb when people are like we have problems in the West and they're like, oh well, at least we don't live in the worst places in the world for women. It's like, okay, well, come on, is that really our comparison?
Her yell,
Egypt is okay. I've heard different. I think there was one friend I think I had that traveled through parts of Egypt, and she said that Egypt could be really scary, even in Cairo if you go to the wrong areas. But she said as long as you're in the super public areas. This is just one person's anecdote though. But even places like Mexico, like Cancun, is considered an extremely safe place. Even Cancun is like an extremely safe place, but if you wander like 20 minutes out of Cancun, I'm pretty sure you can get like killed instantly. So yeah, you just have to be careful. Like make sure you understand the areas that you're going to. I want to ask all these hijab-wearing liberals why Sneeko and Myron embrace Islam, sure. But if the UN is going to maybe come up with claims of genocide, what could they say and why would it be wrong? I think that if you go back on a macro perspective and you think about, if you go back in a macro perspective, you think about what genocide is. Genocide is when a group of people want to intentionally annihilate another group of people but there is a special intention related to genocide that's separate from just military conflict or just, geographical conflict. And I think it's important that we don't want to get into an area where we have taken every single big war and turned it into genocide. Because the way that the ICJ seems to want to define the war between Israel and Palestine would make it so that essentially every big war is genocide, right? Like you can find genocidal statements that Zelensky or Putin have said about the other side. You can find like civilians killing or military people killing civilians, et cetera, like that can't be the bar for genocide. It can't just be it can't just be that when we're talking about genocide. Well, Ukraine has a case against Russia, though. I don't want to speak out of turn about this. Ukraine, I think, has a case against